Bungie has finally addressed an issue that undoubtedly confused and frustrated both new and returning players alike. As of July 7th, the remaining moon weapons were added back into the loot pool without the power level cap. Earlier this year, Bungie removed the power level cap from weapons that dropped from the Altars of Sorrow. Updating the drops was a good thing, but they decided to only go halfway and didn't update all the moon weapons. If you went to the Lectern of Enchantment and tried to farm a Loud Lullaby hand cannon, you'd be very disappointed to see that it dropped at a maximum power level of 1100. In other words, weapons were dropping that were completely useless. It made no sense to veteran players, and it made no sense to new players. At last, that has been resolved, and now you can farm the Lectern weapons without the power level cap. Quick side note before I talk more about the moon. Bungie also added back 3 of the Dreaming City weapons to the loot pool, one of these being my favorite sniper, Twilight Oath. Time to start farming. Now, back to the moon. As with my Dreaming City video, I'm going to give you a little info about the moon to help new or returning players learn about some of the key activities. Much like the Blind Well, the moon has an activity where you shoot wave after wave of enemies. This is called the Altars of Sorrow, and completion of all 6 waves will award you with a weapon. I really wish they would update the Blind Well so that it dropped a weapon after each completion, but I digress. Each wave is referred to as a tier, and the process for completing each tier is fairly straightforward. Multiple altars will be enveloped by big glowing balls. One of the altars will be the destination, and the others will be the spawn points for enemies. Your objective is to prevent nightmare enemies from reaching the destination altar. The nightmares are very easy to identify since they have a big red icon above their heads. The mobs of other enemies are just an annoyance to slow you down. As you advance through the tiers, more nightmare enemies will need to be stopped before the tier is completed. One of the curveballs they'll throw at you are some wizards with white shields. The white shields can only be brought down by smacking them with a sword. Check around for a sword bearer nightmare and bring them down quickly. A sword will drop that you can use to knock out the wizard shields. If you get stuck in an instance by yourself, the later tiers in the final boss are pretty difficult to complete solo. You do have a time limit for completing each tier, which adds a bit of pressure. As long as you have a couple of people around, it's not a difficult activity to complete. Once you've completed tier 5, you'll get a message saying to proceed to the final altar where the boss will spawn. Similar to Blind Well, there are multiple bosses on a rotation, but the mechanic for winning the fight is the same regardless of the boss. When the boss first spawns, he will be vulnerable. His health has 3 sections, and you'll be able to attack until the first section of his health is depleted. When that happens, he'll go completely immune. Here's where things can get really hectic for a small group. There is a timer for completing the boss fight, and if any nightmares sacrifice, the timer is reduced. There is a glowing altar in front of the boss area, and multiple nightmares will spawn from multiple directions. You have to quickly bring them down before they reach the glowing altar or the timer runs out. Defeating enemies here will give you some time back, so that is one way to buy yourself a little more wiggle room. Once the wave of nightmares has been defeated, the boss will become vulnerable again, and now you can attack until the next section of his health has been depleted. You'll repeat the same process of taking down nightmares until the boss is vulnerable again. The 3rd time, you'll be able to knock down all of his health, and you'll be rewarded with the chest containing the weapon drop du jour. You can farm this activity as much as you like if you want a specific role. If you are looking to farm for a specific weapon and you want to know what weapon is available, check out todayindestiny.com. This is a nifty little site that will tell you today's weapon as well as information on some of the other daily or weekly activities in the game. I'll drop a link to the site in the description below. Oh, and while you're down there, would you kindly be sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more Destiny 2 content. The other activity I mentioned was the Lectern of Enchantment. Some bad news for free-to-play players. To use the Lectern of Enchantment, you'll need to own the Shadowkeep expansion and complete the campaign. Once completed, you'll unlock the Lectern and it will be available near Eris Morn in the safe zone. At the Lectern, you can purchase a bounty that will award the chosen weapon. For example, I selected the Essence of Brutality bounty, which will award a loud lullaby when completed. You can purchase the bounties using Phantasmal Cores. Phantasmal Cores are awarded from some of the moon activities, or you can purchase them directly with Phantasmal Fragments. Phantasmal Fragments drop from pretty much every activity on the moon. That all sounds far more confusing than it actually is. Do moon activities, earn Phantasmal Fragments, use those to purchase Phantasmal Cores, then use the cores to purchase bounties at the Lectern. Bungie does love introducing currencies into the game. That's really all there is to the Lectern. Purchase a weapon bounty, complete it, then repeat as many times as you want. You'll notice some of the bounties have an oddball step. On the Loud Lullaby example, the step is to find the Necromantic Strand in the Hall of Wisdom. All of these oddball steps consist of going to a specific location and picking up an item. Fortunately, you only have to do this once and all future bounties will have this step completed. There are lots of videos already on how to find these items, so I won't go over that in this video. And with that, this video is completed. I don't like to end a video without a conclusion, but I couldn't figure out how to conclude this smoothly. I already mentioned liking and subscribing, so I can't use that again. Let me just leave you with these famous words of wisdom before I go.
That wizard came from the moon.